Good morning, fellow councillors, and welcome to Angus Council's meeting of the Friday 23rd December 2022, which is remote this time. I will start the meeting by referring to the two late reports and ask Alison Watson, Service Leader of Legal, to address the meeting as to the reasons for this.
Thank you, Provost, and good morning, members. So today we have late reports. These are late because the option 4 proposal from CGLMC Limited was received by the Council last Wednesday, with supporting materials made available on 16th of December, which was last Friday. Our external advisors considered the proposal and provided initial advice to officers, and it then became apparent on Monday of this week that an urgent decision of Council was required and a special meeting was called. Officers have written the report as quickly as possible, ensuring all relevant information is included, along with written advice from external advisors. And as to why the reports cannot be submitted to a meeting of the Council at a later date, a decision is urgently required due to commercial interests of CGLMC Limited, which are explained fully in the accompanying exempt report. Officers considered it important for the Council to make a decision on the CGLMC proposal before CGLMC may decide to make further commercial and legal commitments due to time constraints which they have entered into. Thank you.
I've heard from the Service Leader Legal regarding the time-critical nature of both reports, and I'm of the opinion that the items should be considered as a matter of urgency, but I also see Councillor Bray's hand up. I don't know if there's any others as well.
You've ruled.
I've ruled, but
Yes,
can I ask? Yeah.
Thanks, Provost. It was just to give notice of amendment to item 5.
That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, thank you. So I'll now deal with apologies.
No apologies, Convener.
Thank you. So the confirmation of the deputation request. I confirm that deputation request has been received by Mike Wells of Carnoustie Golf Links Management, but I will now deal with declarations of interest before we consider this request. So can I ask for declarations of interest? Councillor Cheap. You're on mute, Councillor Cheap.
I was off, it's me put back on. Thank you, Provost. Normally I would declare an interest. However, having done this throughout 2022 and as a result been excluded from discussions in all previous green papers on Carnoustie Golf provision, I insisted on seeing this green paper and again as a result discover the very disappointing position we find ourselves in. Consequently, I intend to stay in the meeting today with the best intentions to question and comment where required in order to assist in trying to turn this around and get the two principal parties around the table to get the process back on track. So it's my decision and not to declare an interest in this today, and I will bear the consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cheap. Councillor Brays.
Thanks, Provost. I think this is more a statement of transparency. In relation to items 4 and 5, I am a council appointed trustee of CGLMC. I have no financial interest. Carnoustie Golf Links is a joint venture between Angus Council as landlords and CGLMC and is a venture of common interest and purpose. I'm content it is therefore correct for me to participate in both agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brays. I don't have anything down the side. I can't see any other hands of declarations of interest. Nope, that's wonderful. Thank you. So I therefore now ask the Council if they wish to hear the deputation.
Yes.
Agreed.
Great, thank you very much for that. Okay, thank you. If the Council have agreed to hear this deputation, but I would advise you cannot make any reference in the public part of the meeting to anything that is regarded as exempt, i.e. Mr. Wells can only refer to what is contained in item 5. Okay, Mr. Wells, you have 10 minutes, and after this, questions only. Make that clear. It's questions only. And therefore, I'll go on to item number 5.
I'm emailing him the meeting invitation.
Right. Just so everyone's aware, the officers are emailing Mr. Wells the invitation to the meeting. So if you bear with us for a couple of minutes, thank you. Just so all councillors and officers are aware, we're waiting for Mr. Wells and Mr. Adair to come into the meeting.
Can I just ask business support if the live stream has been paused until Mr. Wells?
So, Mr. Wells, we've agreed to hear your deputation, but I'd like to just confirm that you cannot make any reference in the public part of the meeting to anything that is regarding as exempt. Mr. Wells can only refer to what is contained in item 5. Mr. Wells, you have 10 minutes, and after this, questions only to the deputation. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for that, Provost Boyd. Can I just get a wee confirmation that everybody can hear me okay? Just a thumbs up or excellent. Okay, so
Yes,
I think first of all, thank you for allowing me to speak this morning, and to the council officers and their advisors for pulling together a report and a meeting so quickly. As you know, 4 years ago, Angus Council and Carnoustie Golf Link submitted a joint proposal to key stakeholders, really designed to secure local golf access for generations to come, secure the return of the Open, secure charitable financial support to local people, secure and create jobs, stimulate transformational change, and provide the foundation for a sustainable future, not just for the provision of golf. The Carnoustie Way, as we tend to call it now, is much more than that. We're a successful business ecosystem that we are proud to deliver, and we think that we do it extremely well on behalf of the people of Angus. I'd like to thank the councillors for supporting our ambition over these years, and for the council officers for their time and support to get to this stage. And I think, as I've said before, we are well aware that golf, hospitality and leisure is not a core function of the council, and that's why we are here. The fact is, however, that we're now running out of time. The officers are right in a way that the timescales are self-imposed, but they were imposed for a reason. They were imposed to ensure that we didn't lose the opportunity to deliver this incredible project. Carnoustie Golf Links has invested a significant sum of money to this project to date, money which has been well spent to secure Carnoustie and Angus's future on a global stage. The purchase of the hotel is a critical component of this, and we are at a critical stage in that agreement. If we are not allowed to complete within the already significantly extended timescales, this project will fail. I've lost count how many external professional organisations have been involved over the past 4 years, from leading tax specialists to hospitality and leisure specialists, financial scrutiny, legal scrutiny, universities building business cases, and many, many more, all working together, contributing to the development of a plan for the next chapter in Carnoustie's development. I understand that granting a long-term lease is a sizable ask for the council, and we remain committed to working collaboratively to deliver the requirements for this, and look forward to sharing thoughts and ideas and debate during a welcome consultation process when the time is right. The granting of a lease is not for now. That's the next stage, and we accept that. All we ask for now is a rollover of an existing management agreement that's been in place for over 40 years, a standard ask. We will continue to deliver the same high standards we always have, the same organisation, the same people, the same management agreement. People from all over Angus who work here, from Kirriemuir, from Forfar, from Montrose, from Brechin. We employ over 100 people and hope to employ many, many more as a result of this vision. I respect the nervousness when it comes to decision making, I really do, and we will help where we can to ensure that Angus Council have all of the information they need, and I ask for explicit clarity if there is any information that remains outstanding. The bottom line, as I've said, that it's now taking too long. This project needs closure. All stakeholders are ready to meet with the council to deliver whatever is required to get this over the line. As I submitted to the councillors last night, there were a couple of key questions, really. One being, as I've just said, for clarity and definition as soon as is practically possible, where the council feel there are gaps in Carnoustie Golf Link's proposal. And secondly, to facilitate a meeting to consult further on this as a matter of urgency, with all stakeholders present, if that is what is required. I think that probably sums most of it up. I say we all have positions that we need to play in this. We respect the process of the council, but are here to support that at any time. We're very happy to take any questions. Myself and my colleague Adair are here down at Carnoustie. Yeah, I'll hand that back over to yourself, Mr. Provost, with those words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wells. Any councillors have any questions of Mr. Wells or Mr. Simpson? No, that's fine on that. Oh, hold on, just bear with me. Oh, there is a hand. I now see a hand up. There are now two hands up. Right. Councillor Doran seems to be the first up. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify something. It was mentioned that some information was shared with councillors last night, but I'm not quite sure if everyone has received that. So I was just wanted to clarify that.
I can take that if you like. So the Councillor Doran was to the actions back to the facilitator from the Angus Council officers that we were required to provide as part of the deputation in the meeting today. So I provided two questions.
Is that okay, Councillor Doran?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Beattie.
Yeah, just a quick question for Mr. Wells. Mr. Wells, I'm sort of new to this. I haven't been immersed in this for the last 4 years. So this is, very sort of probably a very naive question. Can I ask why, or maybe you've dealt with this already, but can I ask why you didn't just approach the banks for funding for the whole project rather than seeking investment elsewhere. It's just to fill in the gaps for me, please.
Yep, certainly. I'll hand that question across to Mr. Simpson, who's also our financial director.
Thank you.
That's good.
Good morning, all. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. I think it's relatively simple. The scope and size of the project would not be fundable from your mainstream banks. If you consider it like a mortgage, there's certain criteria, and the amount of leverage you can put on a business like this is ranging from a multiple of profit or a cap on loan to value. And the business that we're currently running could not sustain that amount of debt in it. It would probably put significant risk on both entities. And when you look at the further investment, it just simply wouldn't be viable to burden both entities with such large debt.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Cheap.
Thanks, Provost. If we cut to the core, Mike, on this and on the agenda item 5 and the recommendations, basically it says that there is not sufficient information has come from CGLMC to council officers and advisors in order for them to make the decision to proceed with this. Can I ask you what you're aware of what information you have yet to provide to satisfy officers and advisors?
I can give that a go, Councillor. Back when we were talking about the lease back in September, we were provided with a guideline helpfully from the councillors' advisors, but it was quite clear that that ask was too big for the lease at that time. So therefore we decided, we collaboratively came to a decision that just wasn't possible. Therefore, could we come back to the council with a proposal for a different solution, which we did, now classified as the interim solution. And that was really a position that provided a lot less risk, a lot less of a change, going from a lease just to within the existing management agreement. So we put forward a proposal with a huge amount of documentation within that, including viability, business cases, and of course we've already previously produced through Grant Thornton's a complete business case for the combined businesses going forward. So I guess the answer to your question is no. I'm not entirely sure what remains missing, and I would love to have some clarity around that. And of course we're here ready to provide that if we can.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Provost. I'm wondering, excuse me a second, could you put that's it, thanks. What part would Angus Council play in any due diligence that needed to be carried out in relation to potential investors? And would we have any right that would give us comfort around ethics and sustainable sources of investment? Thanks.
This Mr. Wells.
I think that's possibly a question for the council, to be honest. I'm not privy to the council's requirements around due diligence on a contracted private entity. So over to the council.
So is that Alison Watson? No, right. We'll take that afterwards. Sorry, we'll take that afterwards. That was when we'll go into that in private. Thank you. This is only questions to officers, to Mr. Wells or Mr. Simpson at the present time. With that in mind, Councillor MacDonald.
This is maybe more of a point of order, actually, Provost. Mr. Wells, I'm sure, totally accidentally, and it relates to Heather, Councillor Doran's earlier intervention, is meant to say, I think, council officers, but has referred to as councillors. And for any members of the public, that distinction is important, because if we've not made, we've not been party to those discussions or those questions, it is an important distinction to make. So just to be clear, that I think when Mr. Wells has been speaking, he's meant to say, and it's easy done, council officers rather than councillors.
Thank you, Mark. You're absolutely right on that. Councillor Whiteside.
Thank you, Provost, and thank you, Mike, for your presentation. You mentioned during your presentation that you need explicit clarity on the missing information that's required. I'm a bit confused. Is that not something that the legal advisors on both sides have been discussing over the past few months?
Thank you. So we were provided with a guideline in terms of the original ask on the lease, which we agreed was too much of an ask at this time from both parties, and then we were encouraged to put forward an interim proposal within the existing management agreement, which we have done, supported by multiple documents and information. So again, in answer to the question, no, I don't think that we were provided with exact clarity on what was provided, and that is something that I am asking for now. What is missing, and we'll provide it.
Great, thank you, Mr. Wells. Any further questions? No. Okay, well that's fine. I'll now go on to item number 3, which is the possible exclusion of the public and press. I would ask that Mr. Wells and Mr. Simpson leave the meeting, but you can come back in and watch it live on YouTube. So that makes it, I hope that makes it clear. We'll if you can leave this meeting, you'll then be able to see it live on YouTube. And therefore, I now ask the council, do we agree to take number 4 in private?
Agreed.
Agreed. Could I now ask business support to stop the live stream, please?
Thank you, councillors. I ask Councillor Brays to read out his amendment, please.
Yes, thanks, Provost. Amend recommendations to report number 42822 to add 8 officers to continue to work with CGLMC and others for the betterment of Carnoustie golf links to the advantage of all.
Right, and I'll take recommendations from Mr. McCaskill.
Thank you, Provost. I think in terms of the proposed amendment, I think officers' views is that that's not an amendment. It would be an addition.
Oh, you're sorry, Mr. McCaskill, you're on mute still.
It's 3 years.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Right, sorry.
We can hear, Provost. We can hear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Provost. Yes, just to reiterate that the terms of the amendment from Councillor Brays, the officer views that isn't an amendment, that is really an additional recommendation to be added to the officer report, which seems to be in keeping with the consensus view of members. Therefore, it wouldn't be a vote or an amendment. It would simply be an additional recommendation.
Yeah. So we're just going to add it on to the report at the end, Councillor Brays. And is that okay? Yeah, thank you. Right, so before we go on to questions, the Director of Finance wishes to clarify some of the points made by the deputation, and Alison Watson will then give a brief introduction to the public report.
Thank you, Provost. Yeah. The deputation actually asked for that was submitted to council, asked for a clarification on a few things. So I thought it would be worthwhile just in the public part of the meeting actually doing that. So we're asked to clarify. I think Mr. Wells explicitly clarify. I think was the term used. Any information that's outstanding and where the council feels there are gaps. Now, some of that is covered in part within paragraph 5.4 of report 428, the public report. 42822, and there's obviously more detail, a little bit more detail around that in report 427, which is the exempt report. I think it's tough to say the council has been clear over its requirements for some time, included those in the detailed document which was provided to CGLMC by the council's external legal advisor in September of this year. The proposal as submitted doesn't meet several of those stated requirements. Just in summary, then, the kind of main gaps that I would flag to members, the commercial terms included in the proposal go well beyond what is considered reasonable and what the council's advisors have advised CGLMC might be acceptable. The draft heads of terms at the moment are fairly basic and need a bit of further work. So there's a gap in relation to that. Possibly the bigger issue is in relation to the documentation support of the proposal, because it doesn't currently include information which we think is vital to the council's assessment of the proposals from an acceptability and a viability perspective. Now, this includes there being, at the moment, no CGLMC business plan, which includes integrated financial projections and details of the assumptions used in those projections. There's no investor business plan for the development covering the proposed NewCo, any hotel redevelopment, and any other proposed improvements, again, inclusive of financial projections and details of the assumptions that have been used in those projections. There's no significant update to the proposed governance structure being proposed, and at the moment there's no clarity in regard to the potential requirements for additional council-owned land as part of the proposal. All of those things would be important for the council to understand and to be able to take a view on, and some of those indeed would be relevant for the public and as part of any consultation. Now, what I would say is that I think in part some of those gaps reflect the fact that the CGLMC proposal is still in the relatively early stages of its development as a major project. But clearly the council cannot be expected to progress to a public consultation without more, I would call it more clarity and more certainty of the outcomes that will ultimately be delivered, as has been explained in the reports. I think we know what the ambition is. I think that's well understood. I think the reasons for that are well understood. It's the path to delivering that and the certainty or the likelihood of that path being fully followed through. The gaps which exist, I think, are addressable. So that's an important point. I think there's nothing there that can't be addressed. But that will require the investment of time and resources by CGLMC and the proposed investor. I think there was also reference in terms of the question about getting together and kind of discussing this. Absolutely, that can be done. I think that would seem essential in terms of as I say, the council's requirements, I think, have been pretty clear for a while now in relation to what we would expect to see in return for what the council is being asked to do. There was just one other thing I wanted to pick up, Provost, in relation to Mr. Wells' comments in the deputation. He referred to the ask being for a rollover of the existing management agreement. Whilst that is certainly the case, the ask goes well beyond a simple rollover of a management agreement. We are actually talking about a major change in who is involved in I suppose the ownership and operation of a significant council asset. So it's not just as simple as an extension to the existing period of a management agreement. It's far more than that, and I think it's important for that to be stated publicly as part of this meeting. So I hope that helps. We would of course be happy to meet with CGLMC and the investor to go over this in more detail. At a suitable point early in the new year. That was all I wanted to say in relation to that, Provost. Hopefully that's helpful.
Provost, you're on mute.
I now will. I think Alison Watson will give a brief introduction, and then you'll get the chance to ask questions of Ian, and then questions of Alison, then comments to Ian and comments to Alison. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Provost. And I'll keep this brief. Ian's covered quite a lot of it there in this part of the public meeting. But just to remind members that we're now in the public part, we can only refer to and discuss matters included in the public report, and we can't stray into the confidential exempt report or its appendices. So for the purposes, obviously, of public transparency, we thought it was important to cover off some of these aspects of the public report before we take questions. So the CGLMC proposal, as you've heard, would represent a significant change in how a strategically important public asset of the council would be operated and controlled. So the council is therefore committed to undertaking a public consultation. We've discussed that in the exempt part of business, but just to relay that, the commitment to the public consultation process and how that's undertaken to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to take part in that, and obviously also then having regard to those representations made by the public prior to making any final decision. And that's why we can't rush that stage, and it is very important that we commit to that. And as the public report has detailed, that consultation will take some time to develop both the content of it, the method of it, to have that agreed by yourselves, and then to undertake the consultation and to analyse the feedback that we receive. So that is very important. And as members have already heard, assessment of the information that's been provided by CGLMC in their proposal has been undertaken by the Council's specialist external advisors, and detail on that is provided in the exempt report. So that's looked at whether the proposal in principle is acceptable as a potential future option for Carnoustie links. And while some aspects of the proposal are potentially acceptable, officers and advisors have concluded that as a package, the terms are not acceptable and would require further development and negotiation to determine whether an acceptable package could be achieved. Sorry, I think somebody's not on mute. That's it now. Apologies. Maybe. The second part of that assessment is whether the proposal is sufficiently developed, clear in terms of outcomes, and capable of delivering the Council's previously agreed priorities for Carnoustie links. And on that point, while significant work has been done, we feel that there's not currently sufficient clarity and certainty to be confident that the Council's agreed priorities can be achieved. And then the main consideration and the decision for Council to make today is whether the proposal should be included in the public consultation and put out now to be consulted on as a future option for Carnoustie links. And as members have heard, officers recommend that the proposal should not be subject to a public consultation at this time on the basis of the reasons I've just given in terms of not having sufficient detail and clarity, and also the commercial terms needing some further development and negotiation. We do expect to continue to work with CGLMC, and that has been clear from the discussion so far today that members are keen for that to happen, and we are committed to continuing to do that and to meeting with CGLMC as we have been doing, and that's something very much that we're focused on working on. That was all that I had to say to introduce the report, but happy now for myself, Ian and John, who's on the call, to take any questions. Thank you.
So this is just, as you're saying, the questions could be answered to all three. So let's ask anyone who wants to ask a question, and then one of the officers will then take it up. And then there might be a supplement, of course, from the other officer. Okay, any questions? Any comments? So we
Councillor Cheap.
Oh, Councillor Cheap, my apologies, Councillor Cheap, yeah. Comment from Councillor Cheap.
Thanks, Provost. I've already said a good bit already in the previous, when we're referring to agenda item 4 this morning, and I'll just reiterate again the importance of making the two lines I referred to joined together. There does seem to be a lack of understanding between both parties as to each other's requirements. And, you know, we've listened a lot this morning to what the advisors and council officers say is missing from the requested of CGLMC. But I know that CGLMC believe that they have submitted the bulk of the information that is being sought. For example, I know they've actually provided 25 years of financial projections. So how that isn't being referred to. They also have provided the governance structure of the organisation through the BDO tax report that was being given as well as part of this. So there have been fundamental elements that have been provided that seem to still be being referred to by council officers here. So it just brings the point I made earlier today of the requirement for communication and getting heads round a table to move this forward. The urgency has been made clear this morning already, and I would reiterate that. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Cheap. Councillor Scott.
Sorry, my house phone's ringing, Provost, so the dog's howling, if anybody's hearing that. Can I make kind of two comments in one? Firstly, I know we've had an explanation for, you know, why the papers were so late. Find it incredibly disappointing though, because myself, I was in a board meeting yesterday at 3 o'clock. My other non-aligned colleague, Councillor Speed, she was in a meeting, and my other colleague, Councillor Doran, was at work. So we wouldn't have had time to discuss anything. If we'd wanted to put in an amendment, we would have been well beyond 5 o'clock, which we wouldn't have been able to do it. So just disappointed around that. But I know we've had the explanation for that. And with regards to what Councillor Cheap's saying, you know, I have to agree with him. There needs to be conversations, understanding each other, because, you know, this just strikes me a levelling up fund number 2, where it was exactly the same. They were saying they'd provided you the information. You said you didn't have the information. So, you know, there's got to be greater understanding between the two of you, or we're never going to get anywhere. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Doran.
Thanks. Just to follow up on what Councillor Scott has just said, I think for me, I think I'd like to kind of be ambitious with what we're doing, but it's difficult when councillors are presented with information on complex issues that we need time to look over, and the information is given us to us so close to the meeting time. And I think there's we've had useful discussion today, and I just want to mention the fact that sometimes it's not against being ambitious, but sometimes we're not able to make decisions maybe on things that we want to. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Councillor Doran. Councillor Brays.
Yes, thanks, Provost. I would agree with Councillor Cheap that we do need to proceed with urgency. We need to make sure, absolutely sure, that each party knows where the other's coming from and get round the table. But we also need to proceed with proper diligence at all stages. I would agree with Councillor Scott and Doran. This is far from ideal, getting papers so late regarding such big issues. But I would also like to thank officers, because they've actually had a power of work to do in a very short space of time, and I really don't know how they managed to get this all together for today, and it had to come together for today. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brays. Councillor Durno.
Thanks, Provost. I'd just like to thank the officers for doing all this work at such short notice, and also just to say to the public that obviously Carnoustie is still open for business, and we're going to look forward to welcoming our visitors next year, regardless of what is happening here at the council. We wish people to come to Angus and enjoy Angus and come and play golf. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durno.
Just note in the report, it's very difficult to sort of articulate with all the guidance that we've received what we can and can't say. I think that the ambitions that we're looking at here are incredible. They're really good, and it's great for the future for Angus Council and the community going forward. And as long as we protect access to the course for our own citizens, members of the Carnoustie season ticket holders, as well as other people that want to use the course, it's something that, you know, we need to keep in mind of when we're making these choices and decisions. And I would just also like to reiterate the comments from councillor colleagues about the timing of these things. I know it was very hard to get them out in time for us, but it did make scrutinising some incredibly important things really, really difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Any further comments? No, that's wonderful. So do we agree to note recommendations 1 to 5, determine number 6, delegate number 7, and add in the recommendation from Councillor Brays in as number 8? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you all very much for turning out. I hope you all have a lovely Christmas, and we look forward to seeing you very early in the new year to discuss this matter as we move forward. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you, Provost. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.